Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody, to another week of Nurture and Support, where we share all of our awesome recommendations with all of you. I am Mel at Karmic9, and over there, looking slightly perplexed at me, is Kelly.
Yeehaw! Hi, everybody. It's Kelly Tool at KELLYTHUL on Twitter. And, perplexed. I don't know. Maybe that's, that people talk about resting bitch face. They talk about some people.
I have that, by the way.
Oh, do you? I didn't. I wouldn't have guessed that, Mel. I didn't. But
I do.
I must have resting perplexed face.
Okay, that's better than resting bitch face. Yes, absolutely. Because I always get that all the time. In fact, I got several of those comments today. So. Nothing makes anybody more mad than being asked, why are you mad? So that's just a tip for all of you out there, people. We are nurturing and supporting here today. When you think somebody is mad, generally just let it go. Don't ask them why they're mad. Because if they're not mad, you have just made them mad, and you've just compounded the situation and made it way worse. So, tips from Mel. Don't ask people why they're mad.
Must not ask Mel.
Don't ask me.
Internal conflict. Okay.
Yeah. Because if I am mad, you really don't want to know why.
Gotcha.
Okay. So on all of that uplifting niceness, we will move on to recommendations. My recommendation this week is a book, and if you follow me on Twitter, as I hope all of you do, you have probably seen me make mention of this quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. It is a book called Fluency, and it's by one of my previous social media recommendations. On Twitter, her handle is @JenThulu. Her name is Jen Foehner Wells. And this is, I didn't know it, but this is technically her second book, though everybody's really pretty much calling it a debut novel. Her first book was written in the Stargate universe. I need to read that since I just found out about it. This book, however, is really good. I was really impressed by this book. It is indie published, so she self-published it. It's up on Amazon right now in Kindle, and I believe you can get it in paperback, as she just had a book signing that I was jealous I don't have, so I'm going to have to manage to get one of those. So I can get Jen's autograph on my very own print copy of Fluency. But this story, it's basically a story of first contact in basically a time frame very similar to ours, slightly in the future. And happily, the first contact doesn't happen here on Earth. We have managed to get NASA its own spacecraft. You know how in our world we don't have one of those? In the book, NASA has created a spacecraft, and it is for the sole purpose of traveling out to an alien spaceship that showed up back in the 50s that is sitting out past Mars. And our government, has known about this since way back then and has neglected to tell anybody. It turns out that this is basically the reason that we basically had the push to space anyway, was to create the technology for us to reach this spacecraft and see what's going on. It has been sitting out there silent all of these years. It doesn't move. It just sits there. And it has defied all attempts of anyone to contact it. However, turns out that Roswell crash, where the aliens crashed a spaceship in Roswell, it turns out in this alternate world here, that really happened. There were really aliens there. They apparently came from this ship, and they did not survive. So there's no one to talk to about what's going on with this ship. So now we're going to get to the main character of this book, is Dr. Jane Holloway. She's a linguist. And why would you send a linguist into space? To talk to aliens. So she is this genius linguist and can pick up new languages like that just really quickly. And they train her. They first have to convince her to go on this mission and train her with a bunch of these other astronauts and put them in this tiny little spaceship and fly it out there to this big alien craft out there. So the question is, they have no idea what's going to happen when they get there. They have no idea if there's going to be aliens on this ship, if it's going to be empty, if it's a derelict, but basically they've run out of time. They have to figure out what's happening because there's an asteroid that is going to crash right into this ship here in another year or two. So they're out of time. They've got to do something, or this big treasure trove of technological information could go poof and go away. So that's basically the whole big setup for our story. And so then you get to see what happens when they actually get to the ship. So I'm not going to spoil the rest of the plot for anybody. I've set it up so you can have an idea of if it's something that you would like. It's not far, far future where there's ray guns on other planets and all of that. This would be near future, a world very much like ours. And how, look around at the people around you, how would we deal with an alien culture if we plopped ourselves in the middle of their spaceship and knocked on the door and said, hi, here we are? What would we do?
Especially since we don't really do a great job in dealing with our existing culture. So.
Right. We don't deal with our neighbors very well, so how are we going to deal with an alien species out there speaking a completely different language? So those are all the questions that you kind of have to ask yourself and what's going to happen. These astronauts are all scientists. They all have their own specialties. And one of the JPL engineers is also on the ship. And I am going to warn you, one of the biggest complaints I've seen from people when people give this book not a good rating is some of them are complaining that there's a romance aspect to this book. How many TV shows or books out there does anybody read that does not have some element of a romance to it? There is a romance going on in this book. I didn't find it obtrusive, and I'm not a big romance reader. So I just want to assure all of you, if you see those ratings and you're a guy out there and you're going, oh hell no, I'm not going to read this, some chick lit romance space novel, it's not like that at all. It's very well done. There's no bodice ripping in space. They're astronauts on a mission. And so what if someone thinks someone's cute when they're not looking? It's okay. It's okay. So
I'm still working through bodice ripping in space.
Bodice ripping in space.
I need a moment. Yeah.
As Jane in Birthliving would say, I'll be in my bunk.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I should bring up. Jen, if y'all followed my previous recommendation and follow her on Twitter, she is a treasure trove of nerddom. She likes all of the cool nerdy things that all of us like. There are Doctor Who references in this book. There's a big aliens reference in this book, from the movie, which is one of my, how can you not have an aliens reference in a book about aliens? But Aliens is one of my all-time favorite movies, so I was very happy when I came across that. I was like, that's from Aliens, I know it is. But I was looking up the ratings here. On Goodreads, which, if y'all follow the blog post, is usually where we put the links to any of the books that we recommend, it has 354 ratings already, and this book just came out in the end of June, and it's got 3.95 stars. Nice. And that to me is phenomenal for basically a first book by an unknown author. It really is that good. I read a lot of independent, self-published books, and this one is really at the top of the heap. It's very well edited. If you don't have to worry about if editing mistakes in verb tense or spelling or things like that are just really get your goat when you're reading a book and you can't stand it. You're not going to find that in here. This book is really, really well edited. It flows really well. Jen is really somebody that I think people should watch. I really enjoyed this book, way more than I expected to. And that's why I'm recommending it to all of you to go out there and get it before she gets famous and gets snatched up by some publisher and then we can't afford her books anymore. Because right now they're still affordable. If she gets a publisher, they'll be $14 for an ebook, and I'll be on here griping about it. But it's a book called Fluency by Jen Foehner Wells, and some people are calling it space opera. I don't know that I would go that far, but it is a good, solid science fiction first contact on a not a derelict spacecraft, but one that they really aren't quite sure who's there. When they knock on the door and they go in, they really don't meet anybody at first. And you have to wonder, are there really any aliens there? Is she cracking up? Is she going a little crazy out in space? Because some of the other astronauts think that she might be. So you'll just have to read it to find out. But it's got just hordes of little tidbits of nerddom in there, and I think everybody will really enjoy it. If you're a fan of pop culture TV shows, you'll find something in there that you recognize, and you'll get a smile out of it. But I really enjoyed this book, and I think that everybody else will too if you give it a chance. So check it out, Fluency by Jen Foehner Wells.
Sounds awesome. I think I will check it out, even if there isn't any bodice ripping or whatever from there.
There is no bodice ripping.
Oh well, maybe next book.
I can find you one of those, though.
All right, I'm good. Thanks. Appreciate the effort.
Okay.
So a couple of thoughts. I think the one thing about the story that doesn't ring true to me is the old saying, never bring a linguist to a laser fight. I don't know how that works out, that old chestnut. And then I've got to find I follow Jen on Twitter. So I need to find a way to get a message to her to say, when you sign a book for Mel, please sign it. Are you mad, Mel? You look mad. Because that would be awesome.
She would probably do that for you.
That'd be pretty cool. But anyway,
yeah. Excellent.
Good. Well, I'm all excited to do my recommendation that I was going to do a couple shows ago. And we're getting close to the time that we're going to tape the show and record the show, rather. And I had seen this movie, and I really liked it. But it had just kind of, the reasons I really liked it had all kind of melted away. And it would have been me just saying, hey, Mel, here's the title of the movie. It's really good. I liked it. And I wouldn't have been able to add any extra dimension to it, because it just.
I have a whole lot of those type recommendations.
It's like, it was good. I don't really remember why it was good. So I watched it again, and boy, I'm glad I did, because I knew I liked it. But I ended up realizing how much I really, really, really liked it. So I can give it its justice this time through here. And, I have to ease into this. I tend to like to recommend a little bit more vintage material. So this is a movie released in 2013.
Oh, no.
You think, ooh, wow, pretty good. But I'm easing into things because it's a movie about a movie that was released in 1968. So it kind of balances out from there. And it is called Birthliving-dead. And it is basically the story of George Romero and Night of the Living Dead. It's a documentary. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long. You get a really heavy dose of George Romero in it. It was done with his cooperation. He's talking through all the things. And if you're a zombie fan, gotta go back. I mean, that was the movie. You can't credit a director with creating, and they say this in the movie itself, or the documentary. You can't credit a director with coming up with a vampire. You can't really, because they had a literary history. You can't really credit a director coming up with the werewolf. But you have to credit George Romero with coming up with the zombie prototype that has carried forward from here on out.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Because there were zombie movies before Night of the Living Dead, but it was a much more voodoo. It was a person under control. It wasn't necessarily the flesh eating, the gate, and
right.
Gail Ann Hurd from Walking Dead appears in this a couple times, and she's pretty straightforward and candid on things. Like, she talks about the gait and the speed and the overall actions of the zombies in Walking Dead are patterned after the zombies in Night of the Living Dead. So this is basically a documentary, heavy, lots of footage from the film in there as they go through, but just some fascinating stuff. And so I won't, watch it and to get all this information, but let me just hit you on a couple of the things that reminded me why I liked it so much the first time that I just couldn't seem to remember. So first of all, George's history was he's coming from the Pittsburgh area, and he was involved in creating film for commercials and local television, those types of things. He also got his start with Fred Rogers. He was recording things for Fred Rogers and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In fact, if you ever see the short Mr. Rogers Gets a Tonsillectomy, that is some of George Romero's work. so
I don't know that I ever saw that one.
Yeah, they showed just a brief little clip of it, and it's like, Fred Rogers goes, oh, and all the people, they all look so nice and kind. They were wearing masks, so I couldn't see their face, but I could see they were kind in their eyes, and just in the typical nurturing, supporting Mr. Rogers way. But that was George's work. So he did that. I guess anybody in Pittsburgh at that time worked with Fred because he was building this thing up. And then he was doing commercials, beer commercials, and all those types of things. And then he did one, I believe it was for Calgon, where they did kind of a takeoff of the Fantastic Voyage. And to do...
the idea of George Romero doing a Calgon commercial.
Yeah, so Mr. Rogers didn't throw you there, but Calgon... No. But Calgon, take me away. Yeah, George Romero and Calgon. That's a nightmare. That is a nightmare. And they did it as kind of a spoof of Fantastic Voyage, so it had like the ship fighting dirt or whatever. I don't know exactly what all was going on with it, but the individuals who wanted this commercial wanted it in 35 millimeter. So they had to buy equipment to do that. And they said, well, we'll basically give up our profits for this piece to buy the equipment. But now they had some serious movie-making equipment, and they said, let's make a movie. And his original plan, the first script he shot, was called The Whine of the Fawn. Whine as in W-H-I-N-E. It was set in medieval times, and it was a big, epic romance type of thing. It had a lot of big plans for it.
It was a bodice ripper.
Very likely, and but he could get no takers on it. So they said, well, okay, let's do a horror movie instead. And he had read I Am Legend, and he had kind of felt there were parts of that he could take and kind of advance it forward. And the really interesting thing about this documentary is they're kind of laying it into the times when things are going on. The hippie 60s were winding down. They didn't really change the world as much as they thought. There were lots of riots and lots of uprisings going on, a lot of dismay. And so very charged time racially, very charged politically. And so they went cruising into it. And as anyone who's watched Night of the Living Dead knows, the lead actor, Dwayne Jones, is African American. And they went into it. There was no point they were trying to make with that. They hadn't, and when the script was written, the person wasn't, they didn't have a race for the person. There was no intention in terms of what it was. It was just when Dwayne came in, he was a classically trained actor, and they go, this guy's the guy. And so they didn't change a word of the script or any of the actions of the script based on the race of the actor, which I thought was pretty cool. But it then created some things like, at the time, he kind of backhands the blonde-haired lady at one point when she was going kind of wacky.
Right.
And typically, given the times, that could have been a really charged moment. But everything they did just kind of totally set all that to the side, and it was just the story of what was going on. So you didn't get, they're trying to send a message there, or all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was fairly interesting, just kind of that dynamic going on. And then also just the stories of this was done on a shoestring. And so the local police, the local news, hey, can we borrow your helicopter? Hey, can you bring some folks out? A lot of the interviews when their folks are talking, when they're talking like to the sheriff and stuff, that's all ad-libbed by non-actors who are just kind of there. They brought the dogs out for the police. One of the big supporters of the film, possibly an investor, I can't recall, was a meat packer, and so he brought out all the entrails to all the good goodies that the zombies are eating in there were provided by this guy. So they did a lot of things there. So it's just, if you like, so first of all, this is the movie. If you're a zombie fan at all in terms of how things are depicted now, this is the movie that started it all off, established basic rules that we all operate under for zombie enjoyment. So you get just a great look at the the backstory on how it came together and who was involved and what they were thinking. And there was a lot more depth and dimension going on than I would have thought. At that same time, George knew he was making a movie, and he just, one of the nicest things is he just comes across as a really likable guy as you just kind of, as you go through, and he just kind of explains the different things, doesn't put on any airs. He's just kind of going through, talking about all the different things, and it was just fascinating. So it's, like I said, it's about an hour and 16 minutes. It's a great watch. I remember it better now. Sorry, that all that really cool. I was like, why did I really like it? It was all these kind of things I mentioned there, and much more. So it's definitely worth a watch. I think you probably maximize your enjoyment if you take a quick spin through Night of the Living Dead before you watch it. It's not critical, but they give you enough kind of cues on it. But I think you even have kind of a richer, because being familiar with the film as they talked about certain things, I was like, oh yeah, I get what they're saying there. But might make it a little better, but it stands alone really well. So
where would I see this documentary?
Netflix. You can take your powdered wig off, and you can go to Netflix, and you can watch Birth of the Living Dead. It was originally titled Year of the Living Dead. And they changed it to Birth of the Living Dead. So I'm not sure what the Amazon Prime access is to that, but I do know that it's on Netflix.
Well, Netflix is good. I have Netflix as well.
There you go.
So I will put that in my queue, because that sounds good.
Yeah, really. It's always nice when someone who has really had such kind of a profound impact on something, that he's not just this jerk, and he just seems like a likable guy. And the whole Mr. Rogers connection was just
I think I had heard the Mr. Rogers one before, but yeah, man, the Calgon thing might give me nightmares. I mean, really, George Romero, zombies, Calgon, that's just bothering me here.
He did a lot of beer commercials, if that helps. Local Pittsburgh beers and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. No, because we're big zombie fans around here. The zombie craze just keeps going on and on and on. I love all the little things, the documentaries, the books that come out about delving into why there is such an uptick in the zombie culture right now. And it tends to go along with, like you're saying, about what all was going on in the world and in the country when he was making this movie. There's a lot of literature out there about looking at the trends of when zombies get more popular again, about the things that are going on in the world and where we are as a culture. So I'm going to have to watch that, because I really like all that stuff. I tend to agree. Zombies are a symptom, man. They're a symptom. And they're coming for us all. And they're not going to bring Calgon. They're not going to be that nice. If they do, though...
You're going to be really weirded out.
That's taking it to a whole nother level I don't even want to know about. A zombie Calgon bubble bath. That's a horror movie.
It's a great band name, too.
Like I said, I'm going to have nightmares about zombies, George Romero, and Calgon tonight. So thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome, Mel. Are you mad?
Oh, we're going to move on to social media recommendations now. My social media recommendation this week is an account that I actually just started following, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago. But it goes along with many of the other science-related ones I have given all of you in the past. It is @PopSci, S-C-I. It's basically the Twitter account of popular science. And like it sounds, they tweet all sorts of nifty little science things. One in particular that I liked from just the other day was one about an amoeba that eats human cells while they're still alive. They recently found out that they don't eat dead cells, they eat live cells. And one of the nice things I liked about it was I think they even made a reference to shark. This tiny amoeba kills as many as 100,000 people every year, contrasting that against sharks, which only kill about 5 to 10 people a year in the entire world. So we really need to be more worried about this killer psycho amoeba than we do sharks out in the sea, unless it's Sharktopus, in which case run as fast as you can. So at PopSci, I like them. They tweet all sorts of cool science-related things that are oftentimes a bit on the quirky side. So go follow them.
Yeah, they were, I forget where I heard it the other day, shocker, I know, but they were running through, the Shark Week stuff and all that, but realistically, the number you're talking about, the number of people sharks actually kill annually, 5 to 10, low number, and then they start stacking all these other things up against it. Right. Hippos,
yeah,
large numbers.
Yes.
So I don't know if we're gonna get Hippo Week or Amoeba Week or something like that on Sci-Fi, but.
Well, we can do amoebas any old time. I mean, my gosh, we've got Ebola running around right now. It's not an amoeba, but close enough.
This is the happiest nurture and support ever, I think.
Yeah, we're very nurturing and supportive today.
We're on over. Yeah, and I'll kind of keep with the trend here of just because this is science too. Well, I don't know if it's science. It's taxidermy. So I had warned Mel that this one was coming at some point in time. Today I am recommending crap taxidermy on Twitter, and crap taxidermy with its 128,000 followers memorializes either horribly wrong ideas for taxidermy or horribly executed taxidermy. Since the deed's already been done and the animal's no longer with us, maybe that makes me feel a little better, but it's really sad. Because you get some people, it was like the lady that tried to touch up, there was like a painting of Jesus and she was going to try and touch it up and it got done. It just was so horribly wrong. You basically get to see that in the world of taxidermy again and again and again. There are bug-eyed foxes and things that it's just, at some point, you don't really even know what they are. It's some interesting photos in your timeline.
It's just so wrong.
It's just wrong. But someone needs to hold these people accountable, and crap taxidermy is helping us identify the really horrible ones out there. So my recommendation is crap taxidermy for today.
I would imagine taxidermy is not the easiest trade to learn. I would think.
Oh, apparently, based on what I've seen, you need to have a certain level of skill, and there are a lot of people who are not very good at it. So. Right.
Yeah, it's just not for anybody. You can't just go, decide you're gonna stuff that dead squirrel on the side of the road. It's not gonna come out well. So maybe y'all should go check this out before you try, so you can get the right idea that you don't need to do this.
Yeah. See, there you go. That's the public service we're doing by recommending.
Go look at these horrible, horrible pictures, and once and for all, truly decide that you don't ever need to try this.
And be aware, there's a Twitter site out there, our Twitter handle out there, that will tweet your horrible taxidermy if you try and fail.
Yes.
So move along.
Absolutely. Well, we've just been a bundle of joy today.
So, well, was it last? I think it was last week we gave people a perfect weekend, right? It was like, hey, here's some music to listen to, and
we did.
Great book to read, and so so we gave them a little bit of joy. We can take it away this week.
Right. We like to take away as much as we give.
Even that way, yeah.
Absolutely. So probably, speaking of taking away, it is probably time for the illustrious Matt Shivers to take this show away and deliver you from us. He will tell you how to contact us if you would like to send Kelly pictures of your very own crab taxidermy. So we will see you next week, folks.
Yes, we will, and Matt looks mad to me, too.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com. Or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting.